They said she was nothing, a pet among giants, barely worth a name. When the alien warlords found her wandering in their prison worlds, they laughed. Because humans, to them, were extinct myths, fragile, emotional, and weak. But then came the day of the hunt, when their war beasts, creatures bred only to obey their masters, stopped mid-battle and bowed before the one they mocked. No one understood why, until she raised her hand and the beasts roared her name. Humanity, it seemed, had not only survived, it had evolved. If that gave you chills, wait till you hear how she did it. This isn't just a story about survival. It's about power, empathy, and what happens when aliens underestimate the human spirit. So before we dive into this tale, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves epic sci-fi twists. Trust me, this one will stay with you long after the last line. The ship reeked of iron and fear. In the cold hold of the Zurkai slave carrier, a girl sat alone, barefoot, bruised, and silent. The aliens called her Specimen 7. To them, she was a curiosity, a relic from a primitive race that had burned itself out centuries ago. She didn't speak their language, not yet, but she listened, always listening to the low growls from the pens nearby. The beasts inside, bred for war, were said to obey only the Zurkai. No other creature dared approach them, except her. Every night, when the guard's footsteps faded, she whispered through the bars. Soft sounds, human sounds, the kind no one had heard in ages. The beasts stopped growling. They began listening. When one of the handlers mocked her, calling her a pet, she didn't react. She just watched. Her eyes, tired, soft, and strangely fearless, met the handler's. Something in the shadows behind her moved. A massive, clawed shape pressed against the cage. The guard froze. The pet smiled. And in that silent moment, under the hum of alien engines, the first bond between human and war beast was forged. Darkness wasn't quiet on the Zurkai ship. It breathed. Metal groaned. Vents hissed, and far below the crew decks, the beasts dreamed restless dreams. But now, something new stirred among them, a whisper, a soft, rhythmic hum, almost like a heartbeat. The human girl sat near the cages, her fingers tracing patterns in the air as if remembering something long lost. The largest beast, a scaled titan with eyes like molten gold, had stopped pacing. It tilted its head toward her, watching. When she whispered again, it rumbled low, not in threat, but in answer. The handlers called it impossible. The Zurkai priests called it dangerous. But the captain, old and scarred, saw profit. "Teach her," he ordered. "If she can speak to them, she'll make us rich." They didn't realize she wasn't learning their tongue. She was teaching it. The beasts began responding to her rhythm, her tone, her emotion. One night, when the ship crossed a silent nebula, a handler tried to strike her for disobedience. The whip cracked, but the beast's tail caught it mid-air, snapping it in two. The girl didn't flinch. She just whispered one word. The beast lowered its head, and the darkness bowed with it. The day of the hunt arrived. The Zurkai arena blazed with violet fire, packed with thousands of roaring spectators. They had come to witness a ritual older than memory. War beasts unleashed to prove dominance, but this time there was something new in the pit. A human. They chained her to the center, wrists raw, eyes lifted to the towering gates. The crowd laughed. The announcer sneered, "Behold, the pet who thinks she can command our beasts!" When the gates opened, the air trembled. 6 war beasts thundered in, eyes burning, jaws dripping steam. The Zurkai commander raised his staff. "Kill her!" The beasts charged, then froze. The girl didn't scream. She stepped forward, calm as if meeting old friends. She whispered something, low, melodic, and one by one, the beasts' growls turned to silence. Their bodies trembled, and they knelt. The arena fell still. Thousands of voices choked off mid-laughter. Even the commander dropped his staff. She looked up, meeting his gaze through the smoke. Her voice carried, clear and unshaken. They don't serve cruelty. They serve heart. For the first time in Zurkai history, their beasts obeyed a human, and the Empire knew something ancient had just awakened. The council chamber burned with arguments. The Zurkai leaders shouted across the table, their voices echoing through the crystal walls. "It's sorcery!" one hissed. "No," growled another. "It's heritage!" The girl stood silent in the center, chains still on her wrists, though everyone knew they were useless now. Around her, the war beasts waited, kneeling, heads bowed. Their breath filled the air like thunder restrained. A scholar approached cautiously, scanning her with trembling claws. "Her resonance," he muttered. "It matches the ancient Earth frequencies. The ones we lost when humanity vanished." She frowned. "You thought we vanished because you couldn't hear us anymore." The scholar froze. Her words struck like light. She raised her hand toward a glowing torch on the wall. The flame bent toward her, spiraling like a serpent. Gasps filled the hall. It wasn't magic. It was will, pure, raw, human intent resonating with energy itself. The commander who once mocked her took a hesitant step forward. "What are you?" Her eyes met his. "Human," she said softly, "but not the kind you remember." And when the beasts roared in unison, the fire bowed with them. The great hall of the Zurkai citadel was silent, not from peace, but from awe. The same beings who once laughed at the human now stood frozen, as their beasts, those unstoppable war titans, knelt around her like guardians. The council tried to speak, but the words faltered. She walked forward, every step echoing across the polished stone. The beasts followed, forming a circle of protection. The old commander bowed his head. "What will you do with us?" he whispered. She smiled, softly, almost sadly. "Teach you what your wars forgot." Then, with a voice calm yet powerful enough to shake glass, she gave the order that would change galaxies. "Rise." The beasts rose, not in defiance, but in unity. From the slums to the stars, word spread. The human had made the monsters kneel, and in that moment, an empire built on fear learned something ancient. You can chain a body, but never a voice born of empathy, and the universe would never again call humanity extinct. So, what did you feel when the beasts bowed? That moment, when strength met compassion, is what defines humanity in every world we touch. If this story made your heart race or gave you chills, imagine how many more legends are waiting out there in the stars. Like this story? Tap like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in the power of the human spirit. Because here, in this corner of the galaxy, we remember one truth. Humans don't conquer through fear. We lead through heart. Stay tuned, traveler. More HFY tales await.